Hi, this is Steve from Office 365Mon, and in this video we're going to look at how to configure the website monitoring feature of Office 365Mon. So if we go up here to configure and come down here to website monitoring, that brings us to the page where we can set this up. So the website monitoring feature is designed to build off the architecture and design that Office 365Mon uses to monitor Office 365 resources and allow you to use that same architecture and design to monitor other websites that aren't necessarily Office 365 websites. The best example is probably customers that have Office 365 and SharePoint Online, and they develop or buy apps for SharePoint Online. And apps for SharePoint Online can either be hosted within SharePoint Online themselves, or what many customers do and many developers do is they build their applications to be hosted on a separate website. And when they do that, in most cases, those websites are configured to use the same authentication with Azure Active Directory that Office 365 uses. And that makes the uh, end user experience fairly seamless as they transition from their SharePoint Online site over to their app for SharePoint that also uses that same authentication. So in order to do that, we use the same infrastructure and design to get through that process, not only of managing the authentication to that website, but also the set of cloud services that we have to issue health probes against those sites to check their availability and performance. One other thing to note about this is that not only can you monitor websites, just plain, end user websites using this feature, you can also monitor REST APIs that are in those websites that are also secured with Azure Active Directory. And then finally, if you just want to use it to monitor an anonymous website that's not secured at all, you can do that as well. So that's what the feature does. If we go down here, the process of setting up the configuration is one of the more advanced features of Office 365 Mon. If you just want to monitor an anonymous website or anonymous REST API, then it's really quite simple. You can just type in the URL to whatever it is you want to monitor and click the add button and it will get added down below. If you want to monitor a site or REST API that's secured by Azure Active Directory, though, then it's more complicated. And then there are actually several steps that you need to do in order to set all of that configuration up. If you're going to do that, then we recommend that you download our PDF, and that has step-by-step instructions of all of the things that you need to do to go through to create an application in Azure Active Directory, and that application is what's used to grant access to the website or to the REST API that you want us to monitor for you. And this PDF document will walk you through everything that you need to do, how to create the application, what information you need to get from that application in order to fill out the configuration page in Office 365 Mon. We'll go back over to that configuration page here. If you have some idea about what these things are, you can just click our quick configuration tips and you'll see we have a couple of screenshots from an application in Azure AD, and we tell you where to go to get the client ID and the client secret, as well as this what's called the app ID URI for the application, the website, for example, that you actually want to monitor. It will have an app ID URI. And so we show you how to go and find those values, and then you can just plug them in here. So if this were a website like the Office 365 Mon website, in fact, we see an example of it down here. This is exactly what we did. And we just can copy this URL, and what we did is we pasted this in here. And because this is a secured website, we go ahead and check this box, and then we can plug in that client ID like we describe up here, the client secret, and the app ID URI plug that in there, and then we would click add. And then like again, like all of the other, security and infrastructure pieces in Azure Active Directory, I'm sorry, in Office 365 Mon, the security is all controlled via Azure Active Directory. So what that means is that once you add these things, you'll get redirected to Azure Active Directory and we'll get our permissions to go ahead and monitor that for you. But then you'll need to come back here once a quarter because once you give us permissions, those permissions are only good for 90 days. So once every 90 days or once a quarter is what that means. You'll need to come back here and just click the update button next to this application that you want us to monitor. And that will send us back over to Azure Active Directory. Azure Active Directory will give us a token that we can use for another 90 days. And that's how we go ahead and continue to have access to monitor those resources for you. Once those resources are set up to be monitored, then they will show up just like any other resource we're monitoring for you in terms of the reports. So if we go over here to our advanced reports, for example, and we'll look at our average response time. And what we'll see in here is not only the Exchange mailbox and SharePoint Online site that we're monitoring, but we also see those sites that we added, the websites that we're monitoring as well. So you may recall we have these three sites that that we were set up to monitor under the websites. So we'll just remove these other things from our chart, and you can see here, now we can see these specific websites that we're monitoring, we can see them just by themselves. So it gives you the ability to view all of these sites, whether it's a SharePoint Online site or just another website that we're monitoring. You can see them all in the same sort of reports and view them and set up alerts as well in that way. So again, if one of those websites that we're monitoring for you is unavailable, if we go over here to configure Office 365 Mom, then what we'll do is we'll use all the notification info that you configured over here. So any text message phone numbers that you set up, we'll send text messages to, any email addresses, a webhook if you've set that up, we'll send notifications to that as well. And that is how we monitor websites for you at Office 365 Mom.